Hi everybody, just a quick introduction before we start this video. This is the third of 6 videos that Doug Riggle and I recorded before Doug passed away in early October 2024. This one today deals with rest and relaxation, and Doug starts talking a little bit about some of the medical issues that would end up eventually leading to his death. But it was a really good conversation, and particularly towards the end of this video, he uses one of his life verses. That was a thing that he always referred to as he was going through his trials. So I hope you enjoy the show. Thanks.
Old Testament, New Testament, it just permeates the Bible, this concept of rest. Even the Jewish people had a year of Jubilee every 7 years where you forgave everyone's debts. Imagine if that happened in the world today. Every 7 years, everyone's debts were forgiven. How much weight off of people's shoulders and minds that would be to allow you to enter into true rest.
Hi, welcome to I'd Rather Be a Buffalo. This is a show that is to help you get through the storms of life. We help you to get through the storms with Christ's help deepen your relationship with God, and help you figure out what your calling and purpose is that God's put on your heart. I'm Kevin Gregg. I'm a creative writer, director, producer. I've dealt with challenges with control issues, victim issues. I have sobriety from alcohol for over 10 years, thanks to God and Christ's help. That's me. Who are you?
I am Doug Riggle. I am author and a change management expert by day. Very active in my church and loves supporting people and helping them find their next in life, as well as helping them overcome some of the barriers that they've gotten along the way, whether it's through trauma or through family dynamics or combination of both, which is usually the case. So,
Amen. We're glad to have you here. Yeah, we're just talking about challenges. But before we dive into what we're going to be talking about, we're recording this in August. We're recording this August 2nd as we're doing this. We're in the tail end of summer. I've gotten back from some vacation. We'll talk about that. Doug, any updates that you want to share with our audience? Doug's been going through and fighting and battling cancer that was discovered, about a year and a half, almost 2 years ago?
December 2022.
December 2022, after he moved down to South Carolina and was like,
2
"Hey, I'm
months.
going to start a brand new chapter." That brand new chapter included, hey, some very serious cancer. What's going on, man? What's the latest updates for you?
This week has been a whirlwind. Some of my numbers. So when I do chemo, which my port's right here, that's why I keep referring to this part of my body. When I do chemo, which now 2 weeks ago changed to every once a week for 3 weeks, then off a week. But they always check my different blood levels for white blood cell count, red blood cell count. There are probably 25 different levels they check, from potassium to glucose, all that. One of my markers for my liver going up and down. And it's been doing that for a couple months. So my doctor was concerned, my oncologist, that there might be something more there. So he sent me to do an MRI yesterday, as a matter of fact. And by the time I got home, they called the results and they said, "We want you to come in Friday morning at 6:30 a.m. because we need to do surgery on you to remove a blockage in the stent they put into my liver area back in February of last year."
Yeah.
And I'm like, so this is the type where I need someone to drive me. Like, "Oh yeah, you have to have a driver." I'm like, my support system for that is in Ohio.
Right. Sure.
It's like going from one to another. It's like, one day is the next. I'm like, not quite possible. But as luck would have it, good friend of mine's driving down tonight and he'll be here through next Friday. So I called him up. I'm like, "Hey, you mind being my designated driver next Friday? I've got the day off anyway because we're gonna spend the day together."
Yeah.
And he's gonna be down here. He's gonna be working while I'm working, but we'll have the evenings and the weekends together. But he's like, "Sure." Like, all right. So I've got now surgery next Friday morning, bright and early.
So they're thinking the stone is the thing that may have been, that's probably the thing was the indicator with your crazy levels, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Crazy. So it was like a stone, like I mean, like almost like a kidney stone or something like that. Or I mean, it's not
I don't know
obviously
if it was
not
from
a
the
kidney.
gallbladder. I think it might have been coming from the gallbladder,
Okay. Okay.
but
Gotcha.
I'm not sure, and they're not sure until they get the stone out and analyze it and find out what it's made out of.
Okay. Crazy,
But
buddy.
yeah, let's get it out of me.
Well, I guess you know what I mean. Like, like I sent you in that text yesterday when we exchanged it back and forth. Information is a good thing, right?
Yes.
At least it's like, okay, great. We kind of have an idea what that is. So, and I'm also glad that your friend's coming down at the same time, right? So, good.
God's provision.
How do you feel? How do you feel with all of that news?
At first, it was a bit of a shock. Well, the very first, my first MRI ever, not a fan. If you've ever had it done before, let's just say I had my eyes closed the entire time because I heard horror stories, had headphones on. The
Sure.
machine was making a very constant beat, so I was playing music in my head, praying, and then picturing myself in open fields without anything around me. Because I'm claustrophobic to a point, but not bad. But I
Sure.
can see how this would drive people to become more claustrophobic.
No, I've had a couple of MRIs and stuff in my life. I haven't had the experience that some people have, but you know, again, it happens more often than not where people just kind of go, "Oh crap, I'm stuck in here and I've
Yeah.
got to stay still." And this is
And
freaking
mine
me
was
out.
30 minutes.
Oh yeah.
I don't know how long they usually take, but that seemed
Yeah,
a
if,
little
yeah,
unreal to leave you there for 30 minutes.
no, they just got to do it. I've had ones that are about in that range too, and again, it's because and you have to stay so still, especially when they're getting that detailed on the image. But I get it, man. And so you survived it, buddy.
I did. And I hope I never have to go through that again.
I get it. Well, peace for you, Doug. It's a great thing for us to know how to pray for you, and God willing, God willing, we just continue moving forward, you know, with your journey. So there you go, buddy. So here we are, and this was actually a topic that we are going to talk about today because Doug and I exchanged some messages back and forth. Uh, I just got back from vacation. We went out for a week to Key West, Florida. It was our first time going down there. My wife and my oldest son share birthdays, you know, just several days apart from each other, and this milestone birthday. So it was like my oldest son Luke, him and my middle son Maddie, they have been training as scuba divers. They've done scuba diving trips before, but they wanted to get some more open sea certification. So because of this, they wanted to go to Key West, Florida, to do some of the diving that's out there in the Gulf of Mexico. But my son's wife, you know, she doesn't have a lot of swimming confidence, so she's been continually like learning and building that up over the years. But he didn't want to go there with my son and then have his wife just hang out. So uh my wife Kate and our other son Duncan, we just said, "Well, go, let's all just do it as a family trip." And it was amazing. There was a lot of stuff that we did, right? My first time in Florida, first time in Key West, and it was a heck of an experience. And it was a go, go, go thing. I mean, while they were diving, we went to a turtle hospital, and then all of us as a family did a kayaking trip with mangroves. And then we went on a catamaran sail that was, you know, with a sunset thing. The boys got to hoist a sail, which was amazing. Our last day was spent in the Dry Tortugas, where they've got Fort Jefferson. It's a fort that was built in the late 1800s during the Civil War, where it was like they built this thing right in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico, and you can do snorkeling with, you know, all these amazing. We saw like barracuda and different schools of fish and all that stuff. Um, we caught myself and my wife, well, my other son Matty, and then myself and my wife eventually. We also got head colds during it. So the last couple of days and traveling back were just an absolute wreck with all this stuff. But I joked with Doug because it was like you kind of get back, and it's one of those things where you hear where it sounds like, yeah, I need a vacation from the vacation, you know? It's like there's so much stuff that was crammed into it. And it was interesting while I was on the vacation that there were a few times where I thought, you know, granted we were in a certain time frame that we were doing with everybody's schedules, but it was one of those things where you thought, yeah, it'd be nice if the day before you're leaving, you know, you've got everything sort of wrapped up and you can actually get 8 hours of sleep or wake up in the morning and have like a nice restful 2 hours before you're heading out the door to go to the airport. And we also got delayed. We actually got delayed in Dallas Fort Worth for 19 hours. We landed in Dallas Fort Worth, and our connecting flight that was supposed to go to Key West, they were having mechanical problems with the plane. This was outside the whole CrowdStrike
Hmm.
technical stuff that they had. And they put it off for about 7 hours, the flight. And by the time they got towards the evening, they then made the announcement that the flight wasn't going to go until 6 a.m. the next day, which was such a bummer because it was one of those things of going, come on, American Airlines, if you gave us a heads up, there were some places that we wanted to go explore in Dallas, you know, like there's some great barbecue places and stuff that would have been
Oh
like,
yeah.
it would have been amazing, right? To kind of go out and do it. But anyway, there was compensation and all that stuff that the airline offered. So, you know, but my point with that was it was a go trip. And there's a tendency that happens. I know that I've experienced it in my life. I'm sure that you've experienced it too, where we get in these things and we want to cram in so much stuff to the gills where, you know, and believe me, we had some incredible experiences, but you're wiped out, you know. I'm sure that you've had this. I mean, obviously you've done mission trips and all that stuff, which mission trips are a little bit of a different deal, but your experience with all of this, Doug, you know, what have you gone through?
It's much the same. I know when I I travel for fun, if it's visiting family, there are some rest periods to it. Like whenever I used to go back in the day to my dad's farm, they just let me sleep till whenever.
Yeah.
I'd get up at 9 o'clock. Best sleep I ever had in my life was that north bedroom upstairs, on my dad's farm, and just wake up and have breakfast and let's just go into town and do a couple things. And I've got to run an errand. And it was just very much, very, very calm. Colorado, sometimes I see a lot and I love it there.
Yeah.
But when I go to the family there, it's very much, let's go do this. Let's do this. How about we do this day? Let's do this day. Why don't we go here after this? I'm like, and I like a little slower pace of life. Like, I don't think, I was thinking back to my year this year, my most restful vacation time was in New Orleans with you
Is
back
that
in
right?
June.
Is that
Yeah,
right?
because there was no agenda.
Correct. Right.
And you and I are both very laid back in that we didn't,
Yeah.
we had a couple things we had planned. We had the riverboat planned, and that was a great fun. But then you get on it, you can just relax. It wasn't like there were 10 things on the riverboat we had to do,
Yes.
which was
Correct.
great. And it was a good long, like I think 3 hour ride or something.
Oh
up
yeah.
So it was wonderful. But yeah, that's the last time. Now I've had periods of rest when friends will be here, but in the back of my mind, I'm always thinking, okay, what should we do tonight for dinner? Or what,
Right.
I want to make sure they're entertained. They don't have the expectations on me that I put on myself. So that's part of the problem. I need
Right.
to like chill out a little bit. Then even thinking about with Craig coming out in a couple of hours here, like, okay, I want to take him here and I want to take him there. And I mean, we've got time together, but we don't have a ton of time because we're both working during the daytime.
Yeah.
And now he's taking me to well, I have a hospital chemo appointment on Wednesday, and then I've got my surgery on Friday. So I'm not going to make him take me to chemo because it's like 3 hours just sitting there.
Yes. Right. No, it's a lot of stuff. But I do get it where it's like, you know, I guess it depends so much when you're who you are with or the type of people that you're with, right? And again, it can be and we can also fall into the same thing ourselves, right? Like we want to be either, you know, good hosts or, good friends or stuff like that and want to make sure, well, I want to make sure that you get the most out of your time. And I'm sure that that's where, for example, when you're doing the Colorado thing, that's where people's mindsets are is like, oh, hey, you know, you're out here, want to make sure that you're getting the most, you're getting you're getting your bang for the buck. But
Right.
to your point, like exactly, oh my gosh, the stuff that you're talking about with your dad's farm in Iowa is just like those type of things where there's like no agenda, you know? I, listen, those are the things I actually want for myself for when it's my birthday or when it's Father's Day or stuff like that. Like people are saying, what do you want to do? And I just want to go, nothing, you know, like I just want to chill out. We want to rent something, to stream or have me go get a red box or something or order a pizza. Great. We're good,
Yeah.
Um, but it can be that thing of, you've experienced on mission trips. I've experienced it on mission trips too, where it's just like, man, that those performing arts mission trips I did in Slovenia and Croatia, right? Where it's like it's nonstop. Like it's, 10 days in a row. And when you're doing that 10 days in a row, that's 16 to 18-hour days. Like you're lucky if you're grabbing a solid 6 hours of sleep a night, you're lucky, right? Because it's just like grab the sleep and go. Here we go, right? And now, but there's something to that, and I think the thing that you had sort of mentioned in the text and the message that we had when getting the show together, really is trying to respond to what God's call for rest and refreshment and recreation is in our life, right? Like obviously he wants us to build in a Sabbath, or he wants us to get the right type of rest. And we can get so caught up in 21st century 24/7, let's go. Um, yeah, it's not necessarily, I don't think it's, if we're not taking those moments to kind of slow down and to rest authentically, um, Satan's sneaking in the middle of it and wearing us down, you know?
Yeah.
Thoughts on that at all?
Well, it's so right. And the concept of rest starts in Genesis.
Mhm.
On the seventh day, God rested,
Yeah.
and from all that creation work being done, no small feat, creating everything in 6 days, and then rested on the seventh day. And just the constant reminder to remember the Sabbath and keep it holy, and just Old Testament, New Testament, it just permeates the Bible, this concept of rest. Even the Jewish people had a um, year of Jubilee every 7 years where you forgave everyone's debts.
Mhm.
Imagine if that happened in the world today. Every
Mhm.
7 years, everyone's debts were forgiven.
Mhm.
How much weight off of people's shoulders and minds that would be to allow you to enter into true rest.
Correct. Be huge, right?
Yeah.
Be
I mean, I've
huge.
got a little debt, not a ton, but I've got a little debt. And I'm still worried about it because I'd rather it not be there by the time I pass away, because then it eats into what little life insurance I've got that's going to, a couple of friends and family.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm like, I'm not going to be around to worry about it.
Yes.
And I've got enough money to cover it. So, and my goal in life isn't to make people millionaires when I die, which is far from the truth. That will never happen to anyone. Just gonna tell you that now. But I'm gone. You got a couple of dinners out on me, probably. That's about it.
It is a thing that we do at the expense of even thinking about that, right? Like there's always a price to be paid. There's always a price to be paid. And even your example of like what happens with when we get into debt or all that stuff, it's like, hey man, you're doing something at the cost of what's going to happen later, right? And there's some of that also happens with rest. I used to get there were a few people that I saw in my working life that I admired them. They were guys that they could operate on like 4 or 5 hours of sleep, and
Hmm.
they were just like going, going, going. And then over time, I would try to emulate that myself. And, then all of a sudden you realize what are the constraints of my body. I'm not saying that there aren't people that are out there that can't do it. I just know what my constraints are, you know, and I know my constraints are if I'm having a week where it is a super busy week and I'm getting like 5 hours of sleep a night, you know, by the time that's happened 3 days in a week, forget it, right? I can feel what's happening. And of course, the other thing happens too, which is like exactly what happened to me on this this vacation, right? Not that you can control the timing of it, but I had just come off of a stomach flu that my son, myself, and my wife had had. Our immune system's already low. All of a sudden, you put us into another location of the country where the weather is radically different, right? I didn't mind the humidity so much. My my wife had it made her uncomfortable, but you're also going from you're going from like super hot, humid into frigid cold, air conditioned rooms all over the place, right? And you're running and gunning. You're not eating the best, right? You're
Right.
not getting the type of sleep that you want because you got so much going on. It's like, yeah, of course you're ripe for getting a head cold that's going to knock you on your butt, right? And um, but there's always a price to be paid. And so, and I do think that that's the same thing. I guess I bring this also up with, I see it, man. There's a few people that I follow online that are just like go get them internet business guys. Somebody that I somebody I like some of the stuff that he talks about is Alex Hormozy, who's online right now. But I'll tell you one of the things I don't agree with him on is, he's a big one on just like on if you feel like you want to work 7 days a week, go for it. Work 7 days a week. That's what you should do. And I'm just kind of going, yeah, man, it's just, unfortunately, it's not biblical, right?
No, no.
It's just not. Like, I get it, right? Like, because the thing too is like, even if you're doing something that you absolutely love to do for your work, there's another thing that happens there is you can't make that stuff your idols, right?
Right.
Like all of a sudden you're starting to do idolatry to that and you're not leaving room for God. And I think that that's the thing that happens. We have all of this stuff that's going. Um, you're not leaving room to be still and to rest and reflect. I've got a buddy of mine, David Burke, has reached out to me. He's reached out to me with this. There's this Catholic program that they do. It's called Exodus 90. I don't know if you've heard of a version of this, but it's usually like sometimes you see it happening either at the beginning of the year or sometimes people will do it during Lent. It's usually like a 90-day thing where guys are getting together and they're making sort of a commitment of, hey, I'm going to abstain from certain things, or I'm going to stay off of, news or television things, or I'm going to fast on Wednesdays or Fridays or whatever that is. So there's a new one that's coming up in August 15th. There's an ancient tradition that I was not aware of, but it's called St. Michael's Lent. And apparently this is a thing that would start in August 15th. And usually monks would do this as a way to prepare all the way to get them to Advent as Christmas was coming. So I think I'm joining him on this. But one of the great things during this period is you also make a commitment to get 8 hours of sleep a night,
Mm,
you know, which is like, yeah, that's a good thing to strive for. Like that's a good thing to build into your life to go, I should be getting this sleep. Or I should just, how many times do we have it where, and I know that I'm guilty of it too, man. Wake up and then hit the ground running, right?
right.
Like especially for people that are working at home or whatever this stuff is, it's like your first tendency is to go, well, let me check my email and see if there's stuff I want to, get ahead of for the day.
Yeah.
You're kind of going, stop. You got to stop, man. You got to take that pause and you've got to just go, hey, Lord, Howard, thank you for this day. And what do you need from me? What do you want for me to do? And I do think that that's the thing that God's asking us to build in with this rest or Sabbath or vacation, when those moments come, which is just like, stop all of it. I was glad that when I went out there to Florida, I did not bring my computer. Now I did bring my phone, so I was using it, but didn't bring my computer with me at all. I was just like, I'm not touching anything else. I'm not going to do that, you know.
Right.
Um, yeah, it's been weird. It's really hard to kind of turn that on off button. Do you find challenges for yourself with that?
Well, here's the odd part. No, so I normally get 8 hours sleep a night and I sleep like a rock. But because of the chemo, I've been a lot more run down, tired. So I'll finish work and I'll go lay down on the couch. And then 3 hours later, I'm like, I've got to have something on my stomach before I get up, go to bed, feed the dog. Poor dog's like wanting to hang out and play, and I'm there asleep on the couch every night. And it's been one of those like, all right, my body needs the rest. I need to take my cue from Jesus. And I think about is in Matthew 8, where he gets to the boat, disciples get in with him, and he goes out to sea. The storms kick up and they're freaking out, and they look around and Jesus is taking a nap.
That's right.
He's not concerned. He knows how things are going to turn out.
Yeah.
There's nothing that bad in that moment of time that would have stirred him other than the disciples freaking out. You know,
Yes.
save us, Lord, we're perishing and we're going to die. He's like, why are you guys afraid? Little faith that you have.
Yes.
And it's like, he knew when it was time to stop and step away.
Yeah. No, I think that's that's one of the great models for us, is to go, hold on, got to pause.
Yeah.
Got to pause. And I think part of it's also trust. I think part of this rest is that trust. It's going, you know what? There is only so much that I can physically do, right? And I need to take
Absolutely.
and I need to take this moment, and I need to shut down, because it's also the way that God designed my body, my mind, and my system, right? And my system has to have a moment where I'm able to pause so that it can heal and reset and work its best, you know?
Yeah.
It's and the models that happen, even in terms of farming, that happens, right? You think about that when they're working fields or working stuff, that after so many seasons, sometimes they have to let a field rest in order for it to get its stuff back, right? It's not about just like using it until it's just completely spent and done. That's not what God wants for us to do, you know?
Exactly.
So it was good reminder for me on this. I'm super grateful that I had the experience to be able to be with the family and do that. And the great thing from it too was to be able to go, cool. I think that there's some parameters I would love to build into future excursions, right? To kind of go, yeah, let's build these things.
Nice.
And maybe certain airlines and airports to avoid during certain times of the year.
Well, this is definitely true. It's funny because every time I fly to Charlotte, I hate that airport because it's so massive and unwieldy. But all along through there, they've got these big white rocking chairs. So if you've got a couple of hours, you could just sit and rock and relax. I'm like, that was brilliant. And the airport in Greenville, South Carolina, which is one of the few that Southwest flies out of here locally, about an hour from me.
Yeah.
They've got, it's a very tiny airport, but they've got an outdoor resting spot with gardens and plants, beautiful blooming plants and fountains, bubbling water. You can just walk outside. Normally you can't do that. When you go to the airport, you're stuck
No.
inside for however many
Yes.
hours.
Correct.
They've built that into this.
Yeah.
You can't get outside the garden area,
Yeah.
but you can go outside and enjoy some fresh air and sunlight and sounds
Dude,
of water and get away from people.
I would have given anything for that in Dallas, because I get it's a beautiful airport, like lots of stuff, but it's so cold with the air conditioning, right? And I get it. It was like hot and humid and all that stuff outside. But I'm telling you, because we were completely dressed for Key West, right? To kind of go, great, I'm in shorts and all this stuff. And then like you're stuck in that airport at like, 68 degrees for hours. It was too much, too much. Beautiful stuff, man. Uh, any other closing thoughts on that with rest, recreation, any of that stuff that you want to share with our listeners?
Life is short and you don't know how long you've got. So weave it in where you can. Don't wait for special occasion to have some recreation. Don't wait for special occasion to like take a Saturday off and just kick back and relax. It's okay once in a while to, I don't want people to shirk their responsibilities, but it's also okay to, like, when life gets overwhelming, stop, pause. Psalm 46:10, be still and know that I'm God.
Amen, buddy. Great thing. Well, if you want to try and figure out these insights for your life as well, what's the best way to do it? Write. And how do you do that? If you've never journaled before, we've got tools to be able to help you to do that. How do you find those? Head on over to I'dRatherBeABuffalo.com. We have different variations of journals. One that we got for free that you can get, another one that's on its way. That I'm really looking forward to sharing with you. The year-long Buffalo Discovery Journal. Man, it's got some great stuff that's in there, and we hope to invite you along with us to help you deepen and find out more stuff for yourself. Just like I've been discovering here with this traveling or rest or these other deep insights that you have. So go over I'dRatherBeABuffalo.com, and to get our most recent stuff, please follow us over Instagram at I'dRatherBeABuffalo. That's where you can find our most up-to-date postings, and we'll keep you in the loop with what is happening. Thanks for listening, and we will see you on the next episode. Bye-bye.
See y'all.